For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the stars and seen more than just scattered points of light. They've witnessed gods, dragons, and epic battles written across the heavens. But what if these ancient stories weren't just products of imagination? What if they were echoes of real cosmic events, burned into our collective memory without us ever realizing it? Tonight, we're peeling back the layers of myth to reveal something astonishing. The night sky has been whispering secrets to humanity all along, shaping our greatest legends in ways we're only beginning to understand. Picture this: a brilliant explosion tears through the darkness above an ancient civilization, so bright it outshines the moon. To them, it wasn't just a supernova, it was a god descending in fury, or a dragon breathing fire across the cosmos. A wandering comet wasn't a ball of ice and dust, it was an omen of doom, a harbinger of war or plague. These celestial spectacles didn't just inspire stories, they became the stories, woven into the very fabric of cultures across the globe. From the Greeks to the Maya, from the Norse to the Aboriginal Australians, the same cosmic events were interpreted through different lenses, creating myths that endured for millennia. This is the hidden thread connecting humanity's oldest tales, a thread spun from starlight. Over the next 31 revelations, we'll trace how supernova masqueraded as divine births, how eclipses birthed legends of swallowed suns, and how planetary alignments were mistaken for celestial battles. You'll never look at the constellations the same way again, because once you see the truth, the sky becomes less a mystery and more a mirror, reflecting our ancestors' awe, fear, and wonder. So let's step into their world, where every shooting star was a message, every comet a warning, and the heavens themselves were the greatest storytellers of all. The cosmos has been waiting for us to listen. One of the most dramatic celestial visitors in human history blazed across the sky in 1577, igniting terror and wonder across continents. To the people of Europe, its long, shimmering tail wasn't just a cosmic anomaly. It was the breath of a dragon unfurling across the heavens. Chinese astronomers recorded the same event, describing it as a broom star, an omen of sweeping change, while European chroniclers saw the fiery streak as a harbinger of war, plague, or divine wrath. These interpretations weren't mere coincidence. They reveal a universal human instinct to transform the unexplainable into myth. What's fascinating is how these comet sightings became permanently woven into dragon lore. Ancient cultures separated by vast distances somehow converged on the same imagery: serpents in the sky. In Norse mythology, the world serpent Jormungandr encircled the earth, while Chinese legends spoke of celestial dragons controlling the winds and rains. The connection was so strong that even after astronomer Tycho Brahe proved comets were distant celestial objects, not atmospheric phenomena, the dragon myth endured. Why? Because when humanity witnessed something so brilliant, so alien streaking through the night, it demanded an explanation grand enough to match its spectacle. This particular comet's legacy didn't end with folklore, it reshaped science too. Brahe's meticulous observations shattered the ancient belief that comets were mere disturbances in Earth's atmosphere, proving instead they traveled far beyond the moon. Yet despite this scientific breakthrough, the old stories persisted, showing how deeply cosmic events could root themselves in culture. The next time you hear a tale of dragons battling in the skies, remember, our ancestors might have been describing something very real, a fleeting visitor from the depths of space that left its mark not just in the stars, but in our stories forever. In the summer of 1054, a light brighter than Venus pierced the daytime sky, visible for nearly 3 weeks. To the Song dynasty astronomers, it was a guest star, an unexpected visitor in the constellation of Taurus. But halfway across the world, the ancestral Pueblones of Choco Canyon may have carved its likeness into rock, not as a star, but as a warrior clutching a shield. This was no ordinary celestial event. It was the death throes of a massive star, a supernova so powerful its remnants still glow today as the Crab Nebula. What's remarkable isn't just the brilliance of the explosion, but how cultures transformed it into myth. The Chinese saw it as a celestial mandate, a sign of cosmic approval for the emperor's rule. Meanwhile, halfway across the Pacific, legends emerged of a hero descending from the sky, armed and radiant. Could this be why so many cultures, from the Greek Perseus to the Hindu Kartikya, share stories of divine warriors born from the stars? The timing is uncanny. Just as the supernova's light reached Earth, the archetype of the celestial protector surged in folklore, often depicted with a shield or radiant aura. Even the Norse Heimdall, guardian of the Bifrost, was said to shine like the dawn, a striking parallel to a supernova visible at midday. Science confirms the connection. Modern astronomers pinpoint the Crab Nebula's origin to that exact year, 1054, and its expansion rate matches the timing of those ancient records. Yet the real magic lies in how a single cosmic event could inspire such diverse myths. Whether as a warrior, a god, or a herald of change, the supernova became a mirror for humanity's hopes and fears. And when you look at the Crab Nebula today, you're not just seeing a stellar corpse, you're gazing at the birthplace of legends. But if a supernova could birth heroes, an eclipse could topple kings. Across ancient Mesopotamia and Mesoamerica, rulers lived and died by the sky's omens. When the sun vanished at noon, it wasn't just an astronomical event. It was a divine verdict, a celestial coup. And in the shadows of these eclipses, empires trembled. There are few moments in nature as terrifyingly abrupt as a solar eclipse. 1 second, the sun reigns supreme; the next, an unseen force seems to steal it from the sky. For ancient civilizations, this wasn't just a celestial coincidence. It was a direct message from the gods, written in shadows. Take the Battle of the Eclipse in 585 BCE, where the Lydians and Medes were locked in a brutal, years-long conflict. As their swords clashed, day turned to night without warning. Both armies dropped their weapons in terror, interpreting the sudden darkness as divine condemnation. The war ended on the spot, proving that even kings bowed to the sky's judgment. Centuries later, the same cosmic drama played out in medieval England. When King Henry I's reign ended abruptly in 1133, chroniclers didn't blame politics or illness. They pointed to the solar eclipse months earlier. The vanished sun wasn't just an omen, it was a death sentence written in the stars. Across cultures, from Babylon to the Maya, rulers kept astronomers on retainer, not for science but survival. A single eclipse could shatter a dynasty, convincing people the gods had revoked their leader's mandate. The Maya even staged elaborate rituals to feed the sun during eclipses, desperate to appease whatever cosmic beast they believed was devouring it. What's chilling is how these interpretations weren't isolated superstitions, they were logical conclusions. Imagine witnessing the sun's light snuffed out in minutes, with no warning or explanation. In a world where kings claimed divine right, the universe itself seemed to disagree when it blotted out their symbol of power. No wonder eclipses birthed legends like the Norse wolf skull chasing the sun or the Hindu demon Ra, who's swallowing it whole. These weren't just stories, they were attempts to rationalize the unimaginable. Even today, when we know the mechanics of orbiting shadows, there's a primal awe that lingers. Because deep down, we still understand why our ancestors trembled. The cosmos didn't just inspire myths, it held a knife to the throat of empires. Yet if eclipses could unmake kings, planetary alignments threatened to unmake the world. When Jupiter and Saturn converged in the night sky, medieval astrologers didn't see celestial mechanics. They saw a ticking clock. The year 1484's Great Conjunction wasn't just rare, it was, to many, the herald of Noah's flood reborn. Monks scoured ancient texts, convinced the alignment signaled the apocalypse, while in Mesoamerica, priests charted Venus's path as a harbinger of war. The planets became characters in humanity's greatest story, the end of everything, and as we'll see next, their dance across the zodiac wasn't just a spectacle. It was a script written in starlight for our oldest fears. The year 1524 should have been unremarkable, but when Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars gathered in the constellation Pisces, Europe erupted in chaos. Astrologers had been sounding the alarm for decades, poring over ancient texts that warned such a rare alignment would bring a second great flood. Never mind that Pisces symbolized water. To them, the planets were celestial sirens screaming of impending doom. In Germany, Count von Igleheim didn't just stockpile supplies, he commissioned a massive, 3-story ark, convinced his engineering would outwit divine wrath. Across Italy, thousands fled to hilltop monasteries, while in London, wealthy merchants paid exorbitant sums for flood-proof rooftop chambers. The panic wasn't just widespread, it was institutional. Even respected scholars like Johann Sturfler insisted the alignment would trigger biblical-scale destruction, proving how deeply cosmic events could warp human judgment. What's fascinating isn't the failed prediction, but why it felt so plausible. For centuries, planetary conjunctions had been linked to earthly upheaval. The same alignment in 7 BCE was later theorized to be the Star of Bethlehem, showing how one celestial event could inspire both hope and terror. The key difference: context. To ancient magi, the planets heralded a king's birth. To medieval Europe, they signaled the world's end. This duality reveals a pattern. Humanity doesn't just observe the stars, we project our deepest anxieties onto them. When plagues ravaged cities or wars dragged on, the blame often fell on the sky. Modern science explains the 1524 alignment as a routine gravitational dance, but its legacy lingers. Today's doomsday myths, from the Planet X hysteria to the 2012 Mayan calendar frenzy, still borrow from the same playbook. A celestial event becomes a Rorschach test, reflecting society's fears rather than cosmic truth. Yet there's a poignant irony in von Igleheim's ark. After spending his fortune, he reportedly drowned, not in a flood, but in a mob of desperate citizens clamoring for salvation on his unfinished vessel. The real disaster wasn't written in the stars, it was human nature mistaking the sky's silence for a shout. But if planets could spark panic, a meteor storm could ignite nightmares. In 1833, the night sky didn't just shimmer, it screamed as thousands of fireballs tore through the darkness. Witnesses didn't see falling rocks, they saw the heavens themselves collapsing. And in that chaos, a new myth was born, one that still haunts us today. The night of November 13, 1833, didn't just darken, it erupted. Across North America, thousands of meteors streaked through the sky every minute, a relentless barrage of fire that turned night into flickering day. Witnesses described it as stars raining down, some even claiming the heavens seemed to crack open. In the Carolinas, enslaved people saw divine retribution in the spectacle, whispering of Judgment Day, while terrified churchgoers in Boston clutched Bibles, certain the book of Revelation's prophecy, the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, was unfolding before them. Even the Sioux recorded the event in their winter counts, not as a scientific phenomenon, but as the night the stars moved. What made this meteor storm so culturally seismic wasn't just its scale, it was its timing. The Leonids peaked during the Second Great Awakening, a period of intense religious fervor in America. Preachers seized on the celestial chaos as proof of impending rapture, while Shaker communities interpreted the fireballs as spiritual purification. The parallels to prophecy were too potent to ignore. Revelation 6:13 speaks of the sky receding like a scroll, and for those watching in 1833, the metaphor became terrifyingly literal. Yet indigenous traditions wove a different narrative. The Ojibwe saw the meteors as celestial sparks from Nanabajo's pipe, a cultural hero reigniting the world's fire. Science now knows the Leonids as debris from Comet Tempel-Tuttle, but the storm's legacy transcends astronomy. It exposed how readily humanity maps cosmic chaos onto existing fears, whether religious doom or cultural renewal. Even today, when we understand meteor showers as predictable events, there's an uncanny resonance in their brilliance. Because for all our knowledge, we still feel that ancient chill when the sky ignites, a primal whisper asking, what if this time it's not just rocks burning up? But if meteors could masquerade as apocalyptic signs, the Aurora Borealis conjured something even stranger: phantom armies clashing in the heavens. When green flames licked the Arctic sky, Norse poets didn't see atmospheric physics. They saw Valkyries leading the dead to battle. And in 1859, a solar storm so violent it set telegraph offices ablaze would remind humanity that the sky's deceptions were far from over. In September 1770, the night sky over Kyoto turned the color of fresh blood. Japanese astronomers meticulously recorded the phenomenon as like a rising red cloud, while terrified European villagers swore they saw spectral armies locked in celestial combat. This wasn't just an aurora, it was a cosmic omen so vivid it bled into folklore across continents. To the samurai of Edo, the crimson glow signaled divine displeasure, a warning etched across the heavens. In Germany, farmers whispered of the wild hunt, a ghostly cavalry led by Odin himself, their phantom silhouettes flickering in the scarlet haze. Even the Chinese imperial court took note, interpreting the event as a disruption in the cosmic balance between heaven and earth. What made this solar storm unique wasn't just its intensity, it was its staying power. Unlike typical auroras that dance in greens and blues, this one saturated the sky for 9 consecutive nights, an unprecedented duration that cemented its place in legend. Scientists now know it as the Carrington-level storm of its era, a solar tantrum so violent it supercharged the atmosphere with charged particles. But to 18th century observers, there was no scientific explanation, only the primal certainty that the sky was alive with intention. The Ainu people of northern Japan wove the event into their creation myths, believing the red light was the fire of Kami, their gods, reshaping the world. Meanwhile, in Scandinavia, the aurora's shimmering folds became the billowing cloaks of Valkyries, choosing the slain for Valhalla. The storm's legacy lingers in unexpected places. Artists like Caspar David Friedrich later painted skies tinged with eerie reds, a subtle nod to the collective memory of that supernatural September. Even Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, written decades later during the year without a summer, borrows from the same cultural unease, the fear that nature's wrath might manifest as blood in the heavens. Today, when we see an aurora, we marvel at solar physics. But in 1770, humanity saw a canvas for its deepest fears and brightest myths. The sky wasn't just a spectacle, it was a storyteller, painting legends in strokes of crimson light. Yet if a solar storm could birth ghost stories, a dying star's last gasp would inspire something even grander: the myth of creation itself. When the Vela Supernova erupted 12,000 years ago, its light didn't just fade into oblivion. It became the spark that ignited humanity's oldest tale, the moment light first parted from darkness. In 1843, sailors navigating the southern seas noticed something impossible, a star where none had shone before, blazing brighter than anything except the moon itself. Eta Carinii, a volatile hypergiant star, had erupted in a cataclysm now known as the Great Eruption, hurling enough material into space to form 10 suns. But to the Polynesian voyagers who charted their courses by the stars, this sudden brilliance wasn't just an astronomical event. It was the cracking of Tumu, the cosmic egg, a sacred moment when the universe seemed to renew itself. The parallels between stellar explosions and creation myths are too striking to dismiss. From the Hindu Brahmanda to the Finnish Kalevala, cultures separated by oceans and millennia share eerily similar stories of the universe hatching from a luminous egg. Even the Dogon people of Mali, whose astronomical knowledge famously includes Sirius's invisible companion star, describe creation beginning with a spiraling egg of the world. What if these myths weren't mere coincidence, but ancestral memories of stars like Eta Carinii going supernova? When a massive star dies, it doesn't just fade, it scatters the very elements of life across the cosmos, seeding new worlds with the ingredients for planets, oceans, and even living beings. In a very real sense, we are all stardust, born from these celestial explosions. Eta Carinii's eruption left behind the homunculus nebula, a swirling cloud of gas and dust that eerily resembles an eggshell split open. Modern telescopes reveal its bipolar structure, two vast lobes expanding like wings, as if something immense had burst free. It's a sight that would have made perfect sense to the Maori astronomers who spoke of Tain separating earth and sky, or the ancient Egyptians who worshipped the Bennu bird rising from the cosmic egg at dawn. Science tells us stars like Eta Carinii forge the heavy elements that make life possible. Mythology tells us the same story, just wrapped in the language of symbols. The brilliance of 1843 faded within years, but its cultural imprint endured. When European astronomers first mapped the southern skies, they recorded Eta Carinii as a new star. Unaware Pacific navigators had already woven it into their oral histories for generations. This disconnect reveals something profound. While Western science sought to categorize the heavens, indigenous traditions preserved a deeper truth. The cosmos isn't just something we observe. It's something we're part of, a living story where stellar death births new creation. The next time you hear an ancient tale of a world born from starlight, remember our ancestors might have been describing something far more real than we ever imagined. But if Eta Carinii's eruption mirrored myths of beginnings, another star's death would guide seekers to an entirely different revelation. 2,000 years ago, a light appeared in the east, one that wouldn't just inspire a legend, but reshape history. The night sky over Judea in 5 BCE held a secret, a light so strange, so persistent, that it compelled magi to cross deserts in pursuit. For centuries, scholars have debated the Star of Bethlehem's true nature. Was it a miraculous sign or something equally extraordinary, a cosmic event so rare it became etched into scripture? Chinese astronomers of the Han Dynasty may hold the answer. Their meticulous records from that same year describe a broom star lingering near the constellation Capricornus for 70 days. Unlike fleeting comets, this visitor remained fixed, its brilliance defying explanation. To modern astronomers, the details suggest a possible nova or supernova, a dying star's final, glorious outburst, visible even in daylight. What's fascinating isn't just the celestial coincidence, but how differently cultures interpreted it. To the Magi, likely Zoroastrian astrologers, the light signaled a king's birth, aligning with prophecies of a celestial ruler. Meanwhile, in China, the same phenomenon was catalogued as an atmospheric anomaly, devoid of divine meaning. This duality reveals a profound truth. The stars don't dictate myths, humanity does. A supernova might scatter carbon and oxygen across the galaxy, but we're the ones who spin those elements into stories. The Bethlehem star's legacy endures not because of its brightness, but because of the meaning poured into its light. Science offers compelling clues. In 1977, astronomer David Hughes proposed that a rare triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 7 BCE could have created the illusion of a singular, wandering star. But the Chinese Broom Star record from 5 BCE complicates the theory, suggesting two distinct events. A planetary dance followed by a stellar explosion might have merged into one legend. This layered interpretation mirrors how oral traditions compress time, blending celestial phenomena into singular, sacred moments. The star's cultural impact transcends astronomy. In medieval Europe, artists depicted it not as a comet or conjunction, but as a tiny, sentient angel hovering above Bethlehem, beaming light directly onto the manger. This artistic license reveals how cosmic events evolve in retelling, shedding their astronomical roots to serve deeper narratives. Even today, when we recreate the nativity scene, we're not just commemorating a star, we're honoring humanity's timeless urge to find guidance in the heavens. Yet if the Bethlehem star marked a beginning, another celestial visitor would signal upheaval. Just over a millennium later, a comet's return wouldn't herald a savior's birth, but a king's downfall. As the Bayeux Tapestry immortalized, Halley's comet of 1066 wasn't seen as a harbinger of hope. To Harold II of England, its fiery streak was a portent of doom, foretelling his defeat at Hastings. The same cosmic spectacle that once guided wise men to a cradle would later crown a conqueror, proving the stars don't choose sides, only we do. Halley's comet doesn't just visit, it prophesies. When its ghostly glow returned in 1066, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle recorded it as a sign in the heavens such as men had never seen before, a celestial verdict preceding the Battle of Hastings. To William the Conqueror, the comet's appearance was divine endorsement, its fiery tail a banner unfurled for his invasion. But for King Harold, that same streak of light was a death omen, etched across the Bayeux Tapestry as a harbinger of his doomed reign. This duality reveals a pattern. Halley's cyclical returns don't just coincide with history, they become its punctuation marks, turning points where cultures project their anxieties onto the cosmos. 8 centuries later, the comet's 1910 appearance sparked a different kind of frenzy. Newspapers warned its tail contained poisonous cyanogen gas, convincing thousands the Earth's passage through it would bring mass extinction. Some sealed their windows with tape, others stockpiled oxygen tanks. Mark Twain, born under Halley's previous visit in 1835, Riley predicted his life would bookend its returns, a forecast eerily fulfilled when he died one day after the comet's closest approach. What makes Halley's legacy so enduring isn't just its regularity, but its adaptability. To medieval Europe, it was a divine messenger. To the 19th century, a chemical threat. To Twain, a cosmic punchline. This chameleon-like quality reveals something profound about humanity's relationship with the heavens. Unlike one-off supernova or eclipses, Halley's predictable returns let cultures refine their myths across generations. The Maori saw it as a harbinger of ancestral voices, while the Inca interpreted its passages as conflicts between the moon goddess and celestial serpents. Each society projected its own narrative onto the same icy wanderer, proving that comets aren't just celestial objects, they're mirrors, reflecting back whatever we most fear or desire. Yet if Halley's Comet became a recurring character in human history, another cosmic phenomenon birthed myths of connection rather than upheaval. Across the deserts of Arabia and the plains of North America, a mysterious glow known as the zodiacal light was seen not as an omen but as a bridge, one linking Earth to the divine. On certain clear nights when the last embers of twilight fade, a faint triangular glow rises from the horizon, not the Milky Way sprawl but something more elusive. This is the zodiacal light, sunlight scattered by billions of dust grains drifting along the solar system's plane. To modern eyes, it's a subtle astronomical curiosity. But to ancient cultures, this shimmering pathway was nothing less than a stairway to the divine. The Maori knew it as Te Ara Akiwa, the Path of Kiwa, a celestial road guiding spirits to the afterlife. Polynesian navigators who read the stars like charts saw its soft radiance as a signpost, not just for the departed but for the living. When the glow appeared before dawn, it signaled the approach of Matariki, their Pleiades-based New Year, a time to plant crops and honor ancestors. Half a world away, Norse skalds may have woven the same light into their tales of Bifrost, the flaming bridge connecting Midgard to Asgard. The parallels are uncanny. Both cultures envisioned the cosmos as a network of roads, with this ethereal glow marking the most sacred route of all. What's striking isn't just the shared imagery, but the precision behind it. The zodiacal light follows the ecliptic, the same path traveled by the sun, moon, and planets. Ancient skywatchers, though unaware of interplanetary dust, recognized this alignment intuitively. In Mesoamerica, the Maya depicted it as the world tree's roots, stretching across the sky to tether the heavens to the underworld. Even the name zodiacal hints at its mythic weight tied to the zodiac's symbolic animals. This wasn't just scattered light, it was the spine of the cosmos, a backbone upon which gods and spirits moved. Modern science has demystified the glow's origin, yet its cultural legacy lingers. When astronauts aboard the International Space Station peer toward the sun, they see the zodiacal light not as a triangle, but as a full circle, a cosmic wedding ring encircling the solar system. It's a reminder that the universe's grandest myths often spring from its quietest phenomena. A bridge made not of fire or rainbow, but of stardust, whispering that even the smallest particles can illuminate humanity's grandest dreams. But if this gentle light symbolized connection, another celestial event would soon prove the sky could also sever fates. In 1504, a total eclipse darkened the Caribbean just as Christopher Columbus, stranded and desperate, faced mutiny from his crew. What happened next would turn astronomy into a weapon and a shadow into salvation. The year 1504 found Christopher Columbus in dire straits, stranded on Jamaica's shores, his ships rotting, his crew starving, and the indigenous Taino people growing weary of supplying his men with food. Desperation breeds ingenuity, and Columbus had one weapon left, an almanac tucked in his belongings filled with celestial predictions. When the Taino leaders threatened to cut off provisions, the explorer made an audacious gamble. Pointing to the sky, he declared his Christian God was so angered by their reluctance that he would punish the moon, making it appear inflamed with wrath. 3 nights later, as the lunar eclipse began, the Taino watched in horror as the moon darkened to a blood-red hue, exactly as Columbus had foretold. Panicked, they begged forgiveness, restoring supplies immediately. What seemed like divine intervention was pure astronomical calculation. Columbus had known the eclipse was coming. This moment reveals more than just colonial cunning. It exposes the moon's sacred role in mythologies worldwide. To the Taino, the moon was Atabe, a life-giving goddess who governed tides and harvests. Her sudden suffering wasn't just an omen, it was a cosmic imbalance demanding appeasement. Similar beliefs spanned continents. In Mesopotamia, lunar eclipses signaled the god Sin's displeasure, requiring ritual sacrifices. The Inca feared the moon goddess Mamaquilla was being devoured by a celestial jaguar, beating drums to scare the predator away. Columbus's trick worked because he tapped into a universal truth. The moon wasn't just a rock, it was a heartbeat, a clock, a deity. When its rhythm faltered, so did humanity's sense of order. Yet the irony runs deeper. The eclipse Columbus exploited wasn't random. It was part of a predictable Saros cycle, a repeating pattern ancient astronomers like Babylonians had mapped centuries earlier. Their clay tablets could forecast eclipses with precision, yet this knowledge was lost to Europe's Middle Ages, only resurfacing in almanacs like Columbus's. The real magic wasn't in the eclipse itself, but in who held the keys to its prediction. Power, the event proved, belonged not to those who feared the sky, but to those who could decipher its secrets. But if Columbus weaponized the moon's disappearance, another celestial event would defy explanation entirely. In 1054, a star blazed so brightly it rivaled the moon, then vanished without a trace, leaving cultures scrambling to explain its absence. The stage was set for one of history's greatest astronomical mysteries. In 1181, a star burst to life where none had been before, burning so fiercely it remained visible even in daylight for 185 days. Chinese astronomers called it a guest star, meticulously noting its position between the constellations Cassiopeia and Cepheus, while Japanese court scribes recorded it as an omen. Yet unlike the supernova of 1054, which birthed the Crab Nebula and countless legends, this celestial visitor left curiously few cultural footprints. Its remnant, the pulsar 3C58, spins silently in modern telescopes, a ghost of that long-ago explosion. But why did this cosmic spectacle fail to ignite humanity's myth-making the way others had? The answer lies not in the star's brilliance, but in who was watching and, more importantly, who wasn't. While East Asian astronomers tracked the supernova's slow fade, Europe's medieval chronicles remained eerily silent. This wasn't due to cloudy skies. The star was bright enough to pierce through typical weather. Rather, the continent was embroiled in political chaos. The Norman invasion of Ireland, the bloody aftermath of Thomas Becket's murder, and the relentless power struggles between empire and papacy. When earthly conflicts consume a society's attention, even the heavens can shout unheard. The supernova's legacy became a lesson in cultural relativity. A cosmic event's impact depends entirely on the stories we wrap around it. Without myth, even the most spectacular stellar death vanishes from collective memory like smoke. Yet the 1181 supernova's faint cultural echo makes its scientific rediscovery all the more thrilling. In 1970, radio astronomers detected a peculiar pulsar 3C58 spinning 15 times per second at the exact coordinates recorded 8 centuries earlier. Unlike the Crab Nebula's vibrant tendrils, this remnant is eerily quiet, its energy dissipating into invisible wavelengths. The contrast between these two medieval supernova remnants is poetic. One birthed legends because its light fell on prepared minds, while the other faded because human eyes were too preoccupied to see. But if some cosmic events vanish from history due to indifference, others are transformed beyond recognition. In 1492, the same year Columbus sailed the ocean blue, a meteorite crashed into the Alsace region of France, and within decades, it wasn't just a rock. It became a relic. When locals witnessed the fiery descent and unearthed the still warm stone, they didn't see space debris, they saw a divine sign. By 1515, the Igleheim meteorite had been chained inside a church, its very existence proof of heavenly intervention. Pilgrims traveled to touch it, believing it cured ailments, while Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I interpreted its fall as a mandate for his wars. A chunk of interplanetary metal became a political tool, a medical device, and a sacred object, all because it arrived at the right moment to be mythologized. The difference between the forgotten supernova and the venerated meteorite isn't their cosmic significance, but their human context. One flared during chaos, the other struck during an age hungry for miracles. When the sky sends us gifts, we don't just observe them, we remake them in our own image. And sometimes, as we'll see next, those remakings can alter the course of history itself. At the heart of Islam's most sacred sanctuary lies a mystery older than the faith itself, the black stone of the Kaaba, a dark, fragmented rock set in silver, kissed by millions of pilgrims each year. Islamic tradition holds it descended from heaven, gifted to Adam after his expulsion from Eden, then passed through prophets until Muhammad placed it in the Kaaba's corner. But geology whispers another origin story. This revered object may be a meteorite, a fragment of cosmic debris that survived its fiery plunge to Earth. The stone's pitted surface, its glassy fusion crust from atmospheric entry, even its unusual magnetism, all hint at an otherworldly birth. What's remarkable isn't just its possible extraterrestrial origin, but how seamlessly it was woven into sacred history, transforming from a random space rock into a divine touchstone. This pattern of sanctifying meteorites repeats across cultures like a celestial refrain. In Delphi, the ancient Greeks revered the omphalos, a conical stone believed to mark the world's navel, which some scholars argue was a meteorite venerated as Zeus's divine anchor. The Phoenicians carried similar stones in processions, calling them Bethel's houses of God. Far across the Atlantic, the Blackfoot people of North America guarded the Iron Shirt, a meteorite wrapped in sacred buckskin, while the Hopi spoke of a sky-born stone tablet inscribed with spiritual laws. These parallels reveal a universal human instinct. When the heavens literally hand us a piece of themselves, we don't just study it, we bow. The Kaaba's stone carries an extra layer of irony. Before Islam, the pre-Islamic Arabs already worshipped it as part of their pantheon of idols, proving how easily cosmic debris becomes consecrated across shifting beliefs. Muhammad's act of preserving it while cleansing the Kaaba of other idols was a masterstroke. He didn't reject the stone's ancient mystique, but repurposed its symbolism for monotheism. Today, when pilgrims circle the Kaaba, they're not just performing a ritual, they're orbiting a relic that bridges Earth and the cosmos, a reminder that the divine can arrive unannounced, burning through the atmosphere on a trajectory beyond human prediction. Yet if meteorites could become sacred anchors, the Aurora Borealis would prove far more deceptive. In 1781, as American Revolution soldiers camped near the Delaware River, the northern lights blazed so far south that troops mistook the shimmering curtains for distant fires, perhaps British torches advancing. The resulting panic triggered a chaotic midnight mobilization, with regiments forming battle lines against an enemy that didn't exist. The sky's illusions, it seemed, could muster armies as easily as meteorites-inspired altars. The night of September 12, 1582, should have marked the fall of Vienna. Ottoman forces, having battered the city's walls for weeks, were poised to breach its defenses until the sky itself seemed to take sides. As soldiers tightened their grips on swords and shields, a sudden crimson glow erupted overhead, painting the clouds in hues of blood and fire. To the exhausted Viennese, it might have looked like the dawn arriving impossibly early. But to the Ottoman besiegers, this unnatural radiance could only mean one thing: the heavens were unleashing divine wrath upon them. Within hours, the siege collapsed, the invaders retreating in panic. History records it as a strategic withdrawal, but the truth is far stranger. An aurora, flaring far south of its usual range, had tricked an army into seeing an omen. This celestial deception wasn't just a quirk of warfare, it was the latest echo of an ancient pattern. Across cultures, from the Norse tales of the Bifrost Bridge to Chinese legends of heavenly armies clashing, auroras have been interpreted as cosmic battlefields. The Maori spoke of Tama Nui, Ti-Ra, the sun god, dancing with his fires, while Siberian shamans believed the lights were ancestors riding across the sky. What made the Vienna event unique was its tangible impact on history. Most auroras inspire myths. This one altered the fate of empires. The Ottomans' retreat wasn't just tactical, it was theological. Their chroniclers later wrote of flaming spears in the sky, a sign that Allah had withdrawn favor. The Habsburgs, meanwhile, spun the event into propaganda, claiming the Virgin Mary herself had shielded the city with celestial fire. Science now explains the 1582 aurora as a particularly violent solar storm, its charged particles colliding with Earth's atmosphere at an unusual latitude. But the cultural aftershocks reveal something deeper. When the sky becomes a canvas, humanity doesn't just see pretty lights. We see narratives, warnings, and divine signatures. The same instinct that made Vikings discern Valkyries in the aurora's shimmer led Ottoman soldiers to perceive judgment. And in that moment, atmospheric physics became mythology in real time, proving that the border between astronomy and legend is thinner than we think. Yet if auroras could masquerade as divine armies, another cosmic phenomenon would blur the line between science and nightmare. In 1645, a star in the constellation Eridanus vanished without warning, leaving behind not a nebula or pulsar, but silence. To the astronomers of the time, it was a curiosity. To the superstitious, it was something far darker, evidence that the heavens themselves could die. And in the shadows of that disappearing act, a new terror took root, the vampire myth. When the night steals light instead of granting it, even the stars seem capable of hunger. In early 2019, astronomers noticed something unsettling. Betelgeuse, the fiery red shoulder of Orion, was fading at an unprecedented rate. By February 2020, the star had dimmed to just 36% of its usual brilliance, sparking a frenzy of speculation. Was this the prelude to a supernova, a stellar death that would outshine the moon in our skies? While the star eventually rebounded, its eerie dimming tapped into something primal. The same instinct that once made ancient skywatchers see not a dying star, but a vampire in the heavens. Betelgeuse's crimson glow and unpredictable flickering have long made it a celestial oddity. To the Babylonians, its red hue symbolized the blood-stained foot of their hero god Marduk. Medieval European stargazers called it the armpit of the giant, associating its variability with the unpredictable temper of mythical beings. But the most striking connection lies in Eastern European folklore, where descriptions of vampires often mirror Betelgeuse's behavior. Just as the star weakens and revives, so too do vampire legends speak of creatures that rise and fall with the night, their life force tied to celestial cycles. The star's 2019 dimming felt like a cosmic echo of these tales, as if the sky itself were playing out an ancient myth of something draining its light away. Science explains Betelgeuse's dimming as a combination of dust clouds and pulsations in its unstable outer layers. Yet the cultural response reveals how readily we project our oldest fears onto the cosmos. When a star behaves unpredictably, it doesn't just challenge our understanding of astronomy, it resurrects dormant superstitions. Even today, with telescopes trained on Betelgeuse's every flicker, there's an undeniable thrill in wondering, what if this time the legends are right? But if Betelgeuse's fluctuations whisper of mythical monsters, another cosmic event roars with the force of a celestial wrecking ball. Around 3,000 years ago, a collision so violent occurred in our galaxy that it didn't just alter stars, it reshaped entire constellations, leaving behind a trail of myths as fragmented as the cosmic debris itself. The sudden blaze in the sky that summer of 1054 wasn't just a star's death, it was a cosmic funeral pyre, and for the ancestral Puebloans watching from the cliffs of Choco Canyon, it may have marked the passing of a god. While Chinese astronomers meticulously recorded the guest star as a celestial anomaly, oral traditions from the American Southwest tell a different story, one of the moon dying in a fiery explosion, only to be reborn from the ashes. Petroglyphs carved around this time depict a crescent cradling a radiant circle, eerily mirroring the supernova's position near the moon's horns in Taurus. To modern eyes, it's a fascinating coincidence, but to the people who lived beneath that unnatural daylight, the heavens were staging a divine drama. This narrative of celestial death and resurrection echoes across continents. In Japan, the same supernova may have inspired the legend of Amaterasu, the sun goddess who retreats into a cave, plunging the world into darkness until coaxed back by ritual. The Norse told of Mani, the moon god, chased endlessly by the wolf Hati, his eventual devouring and rebirth symbolizing the lunar cycle. Even the Egyptian myth of Osiris, dismembered and restored, carries hints of stellar cataclysm, with Isis piecing together his scattered fragments like stars reforming after an explosion. These parallels suggest something profound. When faced with cosmic violence, humanity's first instinct isn't just to record it, but to give it meaning through the language of sacrifice and renewal. The Crab Nebula's remnant still pulses today, a lighthouse of radiation where that ancient star once blazed, but its cultural afterlife is equally luminous. Navajo traditions speak of Changing Woman, a deity who ages and rejuvenates with the cosmos, her cyclical rebirth mirroring the supernova's transformation from destroyer to creator. Science confirms the poetry supernovas seed the universe with heavy elements, literally forging the building blocks of new worlds. Our ancestors weren't wrong to see these explosions as both endings and beginnings. They just framed the truth in mythic terms. Yet if a supernova could birth moon goddesses, a far smaller cosmic visitor would bring down emperors. In 1492, the same year Columbus set sail, a meteorite slammed into the fields of Igleheim, Alsace. The Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian, ever the opportunist, declared it a divine endorsement of his reign, but the universe had other plans. Within decades, his empire crumbled, proving that even stones from heaven can't prop up earthly power. The sky's gifts, it seems, come with expiration dates. In 1490, the sky's overseer Ching Yong turned against the earth. Witnesses described a sound like rolling thunder before the heavens split open, raining fire and stone upon the terrified populace. Contemporary records from the Ming Dynasty's archives estimate 10,000 lives lost, not to war or plague, but to a cosmic bombardment. To the scholars and officials of the imperial court, this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a celestial indictment. The so-called Mandate of Heaven, China's ancient doctrine linking cosmic harmony to political legitimacy, now hung in the balance. If the sky itself hurled stones at the emperor's subjects, how could his rule be divinely sanctioned? The Ching Yong event wasn't an isolated omen. For centuries, Chinese astronomers had meticulously documented falling stars as heavenly portents, their frequency and direction carefully analyzed for political meaning. A meteor shower in 212 BCE had preceded the Qin dynasty's collapse, while another in 334 was interpreted as divine endorsement of the Jin emperor's reforms. But the 1490 disaster struck with unprecedented violence. its timing impossibly cruel, just as the Ming were grappling with rampant corruption and peasant uprisings. The meteor shower became a rallying cry for dissent, proof that the cosmic order had withdrawn its favor. Within decades, the dynasty's grip would weaken, setting the stage for the Manchu conquest. What makes this cosmic political entanglement so fascinating is its universality. Half a world away, the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma consulted his own skywatchers after a comet's appearance in 1516, interpreting it as a warning of Cortez's arrival. The difference lies in scale. Where the Aztecs saw one omen, the Chinese built an entire bureaucratic system around celestial accountability. The Directorate of Astronomy, staffed by scholar officials, wasn't just tracking stars, it was auditing heaven's approval ratings. When the Ching Yong stones fell, they weren't merely natural disasters, they were cosmic impeachment proceedings. Modern planetary science reveals the likely truth behind the catastrophe: a fragmented comet or asteroid entering the atmosphere at a shallow angle, its debris scattering across the region like celestial shrapnel. But the cultural aftershocks reverberated far longer than the impact tremors. The mandate of heaven's brilliance and brutality was its flexibility. A dynasty could cite a benevolent eclipse as proof of divine favor, while rebels could point to a meteor storm as evidence of its revocation. The sky became both judge and executioner, its verdicts written in fire and stone. Yet if the heavens could condemn empires, they could also inspire rebirth. Just over a century later, a different kind of celestial light would herald not collapse, but creativity, a nova so dazzling it would ignite Europe's scientific revolution. As Tycho Brahe trained his quadrant on the new star of 1572, he wasn't just observing the cosmos, he was helping to dismantle the very system that had once tied kings to comets. The age of astrological omens was waning. A new era where stars were studied rather than feared was dawning. The autumn of 1604 brought an unexpected guest to the night sky, a star so bright it outshone Jupiter, blazing where none had been before. Johannes Kepler, already famed for his planetary laws, turned his telescope toward this celestial intruder with equal parts scientific curiosity and mystical awe. What he witnessed wasn't just a stellar explosion, it was a cosmic crossroads, a moment where science and prophecy collided. The supernova appeared precisely as Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars formed a rare conjunction in the fiery sign of Sagittarius, an alignment astrologers had long associated with epochal change. To Renaissance Europe, weary from religious wars and plague, this wasn't coincidence. It was a sign written in stardust. The heavens themselves were heralding renewal. Kepler's own writings reveal the duality of his era. While he meticulously charted the supernova's position and brightness like a true astronomer, he also penned treatises linking it to the biblical Star of Bethlehem, suggesting divine messages could be encrypted in celestial mathematics. His contemporary, the alchemist astronomer Tycho Brahe, had done the same decades earlier with his nova of 1572, proving how even the most rigorous minds of the scientific revolution danced between measurement and mysticism. The 1604 event became a Rorschach test for an age in transition. Reformers saw proof of God's hand steering human progress, while astrologers like Simon Forman predicted the dawn of a fiery trigon, an 800-year cycle of spiritual awakening. What's striking isn't just the interpretations, but their lasting impact. This supernova's glow faded within months, but its cultural footprint endured. Galileo used its existence to argue against Aristotle's unchanging heavens, while Rosicrucian manifestos cited it as proof of an imminent age of enlightenment. Even the timing felt prophetic within decades. Europe would see the rise of empirical science, the collapse of feudal systems, and the birth of modern nation-states. The sky hadn't just offered a spectacle, it had become a mirror reflecting humanity's hunger for reinvention. Yet if Kepler's star symbolized hope, another celestial event would soon embody terror. Just 7 years later, in 1611, a total eclipse darkened skies over Hungary, and in its shadow, whispers spread of something monstrous stirring. The timing was uncanny. As villagers watched the sun's disk vanish, reports emerged of a nobleman's death under bizarre circumstances, his body drained of blood. Within months, the legend of Countess Elizabeth Bathory's vampiric crimes would fuse with eclipse folklore, birthing a myth far darker than any supernova's glow. When daylight vanishes without warning, it seems, humanity doesn't just see an astronomical event. We see our deepest fears staring back. On the morning of August 2nd, 1133, the people of Scandinavia watched in horror as the sun began to vanish, not behind clouds, but as if something monstrous were devouring it whole. To terrified witnesses, this wasn't just an eclipse, it was the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy. Norse sagas had long warned of Skirl, a ravenous wolf eternally chasing the sun across the sky, his jaws snapping at its heels. When darkness swallowed the daylight that summer, it confirmed their worst fears. The beast had finally caught its prey. The connection between Skirl and eclipses wasn't just poetic coincidence, it was a masterclass in myth-making. Without understanding orbital mechanics, Norse storytellers crafted an explanation as vivid as it was visceral. The wolf's pursuit mirrored the moon's relentless orbit, his occasional bites explaining why sunlight could vanish mid-stride. Even the eclipse's temporary nature fit the lore. Skirl never quite succeeded in his hunt, just as the sun always re-emerged. This wasn't primitive superstition. It was observational genius, wrapping celestial truth in a narrative as gripping as the event itself. What's striking is how the 1133 eclipse amplified the myth's staying power. Occurring during a period of Viking decline and Christian conversion, the event became a cultural flashpoint. Runestones erected afterward show unusual hybrid imagery, crosses tangled with wolf motifs, as if hedging spiritual bets. One Swedish carving even depicts a solar disk gripped in canine jaws, a stark reminder that old gods and new science could coexist in the shadow of celestial drama. The Norse weren't alone in their eclipse metaphors. Half a world away, the Choctaw spoke of a black squirrel gnawing the sun, while the Inuit described a vengeful moon goddess extinguishing its light. These parallels reveal a universal human instinct. When faced with cosmic chaos, we don't just describe it, we dramatize it, casting the heavens as a stage where gods, beasts, and heroes play out eternal struggles. Yet if Skirl's eclipse marked an ending for Norse paganism, another celestial visitor would soon herald a beginning. Just decades later, a comet's fiery streak would ignite not fear, but ambition, inspiring fleets to set sail toward horizons both earthly and divine. The sky's next act wouldn't feature a wolf at all, but a beacon calling humanity forward into uncharted waters. The summer of 44 BCE should have been a time of mourning for Rome. Julius Caesar lay dead, struck down in the Senate by daggers wielded by men he called allies. But grief turned to awe when a blazing comet streaked across the sky during funeral games held in his honor. To the stunned crowds below, this was no random celestial visitor. The fiery streak, visible for 7 consecutive days, could only mean one thing: the murdered dictator hadn't just died, he'd ascended to join the gods themselves. Roman poets like Virgil would later immortalize it as the Julian star, a divine coronation written in fire. Ovid captured the moment with chilling precision. A comet shone, its hair aflame, portending grave events and proving Caesar's soul had fled the pyre to claim Olympus. This cosmic endorsement didn't just soothe a grieving populace, it reshaped history. Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, seized the comet's symbolism with ruthless precision. Coins minted during his reign bore the comet's image alongside the words Divus Julius, a proof of his lineage's celestial sanction. The message was undeniable. If comets could elevate mortals to godhood, who was to say Octavian himself wasn't destined for divinity? Thus began Rome's imperial cult, where emperors weren't just rulers but living bridges between earth and heaven. The precedent spread like wildfire from Egypt's pharaohs, already seen as incarnations of Horus, to Japan's later belief that their emperors descended from the sun goddess Amaterasu. A single comet's glow had birthed a global template for sacred kingship, yet the Julian star's brilliance conceals a darker irony. Caesar's assassins had killed him to preserve the Republic, only for his celestial apotheoses to cement the very imperial system they feared. The comet became a cosmic sleight of hand, transforming a political murder into a theological spectacle. Even the timing was suspiciously perfect, appearing during the Ludi Victoriae Caesaris, games staged by Octavian to honor his divine father. Was this celestial theater a staged miracle to legitimize his rise? Ancient sources hint at manipulation. The Roman historian Dio noted the comet's appearance coincided eerily with the game's climax, while Pliny the Elder admitted comets could be summoned through ritual. Whether orchestrated or opportunistic, the effect was undeniable. The heavens had voted, and their ballot favored empire. What's fascinating isn't just Rome's reaction, but how the Julian star's legacy outshone its physical lifespan. Chinese astronomers, ever meticulous, recorded the same comet in their annals, yet without Caesar's cult to contextualize it, they saw only an atmospheric anomaly. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Maya skywatchers might have witnessed the same streak and woven it into their own myths of feathered serpents bridging earth and sky. The comet didn't change, human narratives did. But if Caesar's comet redefined mortal divinity, another cosmic event would soon challenge the very notion of sacred birth. In 5 BCE, a light blazed over Bethlehem, not a comet this time, but something far rarer. As Magi followed its glow, they weren't just tracking a star. They were walking into history's greatest celestial story, one where the heavens didn't just endorse kingship, they announced salvation itself. The glow that hovered over Judea 2 millennia ago wasn't just a celestial anomaly, it was a mystery that would puzzle astronomers for centuries. While the supernova theory captivates with its brilliance, another explanation whispers of something subtler, a dance between Jupiter and Saturn so rare it rewrote history. In 7 BCE, the two gas giants aligned not once, but 3 times in the constellation Pisces, a triple conjunction so statistically improbable, it wouldn't recur for another 800 years. To Babylonian astrologers, this was a royal omen, Jupiter symbolizing kingship, Saturn representing justice, and Pisces tied to ancient Hebrew prophecies. When Magi from the east traced this celestial choreography westward, they weren't following a single star, but a cosmic signature woven from planetary motion. The brilliance of this theory lies in its cultural resonance. Ancient skywatchers didn't separate astronomy from prophecy. They read the heavens like a scroll. The Magi, likely Zoroastrian priests steeped in celestial lore, would have recognized Jupiter's regal symbolism as it crowned Saturn in Pisces, a constellation associated with Israel in Mesopotamian star maps. What modern software reconstructs as gravitational mechanics, they interpreted as divine handwriting. a king's birth announced not by fireworks, but by the slow, stately waltz of planets. Even the timeline fits. The conjunction spacing aligns with Herod's infamous infanticide decree, suggesting the Magi's journey spanned months, not days. Yet the Star of Bethlehem's enduring power stems from its ambiguity. Chinese records from 5 BCE describe a broom star lingering unusually long, possibly a nova, while Roman tax archives confirm Quirinius's census around that time. This collision of celestial and historical clues reveals how myths crystallize, fragments of real events, a tax season, a comet's glow, a planetary alignment, fuse over generations into singular, sacred narratives. The sky didn't hand humanity a ready-made story. It offered puzzle pieces that cultures assembled according to their beliefs. But if planetary conjunctions could birth messianic legends, another cosmic force would forge even fiercer gods. When high-energy protons from distant supernovae slam into Earth's atmosphere, they don't just create auroras, they unleash torrents of lightning. For ancient civilizations, these sudden storms weren't weather. They were the wrath of sky gods made manifest, proving that sometimes the most terrifying myths begin as particles traveling at the speed of light. Imagine a bolt of lightning so powerful it splits the earth, igniting forests without storm or warning. Ancient Norse skalds described Thor's hammer Mjolnir striking with such force that it left craters in its wake, while Greek poets told of Zeus hurling thunderbolts that set whole cities ablaze. But what if these weren't just metaphors? Modern science reveals an astonishing possibility. Some of these legendary firestorms may have been caused by cosmic rays, ultra-high-energy particles from distant supernovae slamming into Earth's atmosphere with the force of a nuclear blast. When these interstellar bullets collide with air molecules, they trigger cascades of secondary particles in massive bursts called air showers. On rare occasions, the energy concentrated in these showers can ionize the air so intensely that it generates visible flashes mimicking lightning, or even ignites flammable materials. In 2008, researchers analyzing ancient tree rings discovered a bizarre spike in carbon-14 levels around 775 CE, coinciding with reports from Anglo-Saxon chronicles of fire from heaven and dragons in the sky. The culprit, a cosmic ray event so powerful it altered atmospheric chemistry globally. To terrified witnesses, this wasn't physics, it was divinity made manifest. Thor's hammer didn't just resonate in myth, it left scars in the very fabric of the planet. The parallels between cosmic ray impacts and thunder god myths are too striking to ignore. Norse lore describes Thor battling the serpent Jörmungandr, their clashes shaking the world tree. Yggdrasil, an eerily accurate metaphor for how high-energy particles can destabilize Earth's magnetic field. Siberian shamans spoke of celestial smiths forging weapons in the sky, while Hindu texts depict Indra's Vajra as a weapon that pierced clouds without rain. These aren't just poetic flourishes, they're potential eyewitness accounts of blue jets and terrestrial gamma-ray flashes, phenomena we've only recently documented with satellites. What's most compelling is how these stories converge across isolated cultures. The Maori story of Tohaki climbing the heavens to retrieve lightning mirrors the Greek tale of Prometheus stealing fire. Both could encode ancestral memories of cosmic ray-induced wildfires. Even the Bible's account of Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction by brimstone and fire from the Lord takes on new meaning when considering the Dead Sea region's susceptibility to atmospheric ionization events. The sky didn't just inspire these myths, it weaponized them, leaving our ancestors to rationalize inexplicable devastation as divine wrath. Yet if cosmic rays could birth thunder gods, another celestial phenomenon would guide humanity in more subtle ways. When Polynesian navigators first set sail across the Pacific, they weren't just following stars. They were chasing the ghostly glow of a supernova's remnant, a celestial compass written in fading light. The same explosion that terrified medieval Europe became a beacon for explorers half a world away, proving that the cosmos speaks in many tongues. 12,000 years ago, the night sky over the Pacific Ocean burned with a light no human had ever seen before. The Vela Supernova, a dying star just 800 light-years from Earth, erupted with such ferocity that it likely outshone the full moon, casting shadows across the waves for weeks. To the first Polynesian wayfinders, those intrepid navigators who would one day settle islands scattered across millions of square miles of ocean, this wasn't just a celestial spectacle. It was a compass, a lighthouse, and eventually a legend. The supernova's brilliance would have been impossible to ignore. Modern astronomy pinpoints its remnant, the Vela pulsar, as one of the closest known supernova to Earth, its shockwaves still rippling through interstellar gas today. But its true legacy lies in oral traditions passed down through generations of Pacific navigators. Maori star lore speaks of Takiorua, a luminous spirit who guided canoes to safe harbors, while Hawaiian chants describe a fire in the heavens that appeared when their ancestors first ventured beyond the horizon. These stories aren't just myths, they're celestial roadmaps encoding navigational knowledge in the language of legend. What's remarkable is how precisely the timing aligns. The Vela Supernova's light reached Earth just as early Polynesians began developing the star compass techniques that would let them traverse thousands of miles of open ocean. Before magnetic compasses or sextants, they relied on the stars' positions, the swell of waves, and the flight patterns of birds. A sudden, unmoving beacon in the southern sky, one that didn't shift with the seasons like other stars, would have been revolutionary. The supernova's fixed position near the modern constellation Vela could have served as a reference point for generations, long after its visible light faded, preserved in song as a sacred wayfinder. This fusion of myth and practicality reveals something profound about human ingenuity. When the Tohunga Wakero Polynesian master navigators recited star chants, they weren't just telling stories. They were preserving astronomical data in an era before writing. The same supernova whose gamma rays now tickle our satellites was once a living character in their oral encyclopedias, a character who didn't just inspire wonder but enabled exploration. Yet if the Vela supernova lit the way for pioneers, another celestial event would soon offer a very different kind of salvation. In 585 BCE, as two armies clashed on the banks of the Hollies River, the sky performed an intervention no general could ignore. The eclipse that halted a war wouldn't just save lives, it would rescue the reputation of a philosopher whose predictions were about to be laughed into obscurity. The banks of the Hollies River ran red on May 28, 585 BCE, as the Lydians and Medes clashed in a battle that had already dragged on for 6 bloody years. Then, without warning, the sky itself seemed to take sides. The sun vanished in broad daylight, plunging the battlefield into an eerie twilight. Soldiers froze mid-swing, their swords slipping from trembling hands as the sudden darkness swallowed the screams of the wounded. To armies steeped in superstition, this wasn't just an eclipse, it was divine intervention of the highest order. But one man had seen it coming, Thales of Miletus, the Greek philosopher who allegedly predicted this celestial phenomenon years in advance. His foresight didn't just halt a war, it marked a turning point in human history, the moment when reason began to eclipse blind fear. Thales' supposed prediction, whether luck or genius, reshaped how civilizations viewed the heavens. Earlier cultures like the Babylonians had recorded eclipse patterns for centuries, but their knowledge remained locked within priestly castes as sacred secrets. By contrast, Thales treated the eclipse as a solvable puzzle, a natural phenomenon governed by laws anyone could uncover. His approach, radical for its time, planted the seeds of scientific inquiry in Greek thought. Yet the aftermath reveals a fascinating tension. Even as rationality triumphed, the eclipse's symbolic power endured. The war's end wasn't negotiated by diplomats, it was dictated by terrified soldiers convinced the gods had withdrawn their favor. Science might explain the mechanics, but myth still held sway over hearts. The duality of this moment echoes through the ages. In one breath, Thales demonstrated that celestial events weren't arbitrary divine whims but predictable occurrences. In the next, that very predictability became its own kind of magic, proof that human minds could decode the universe's hidden rhythms. The eclipse became a bridge between worlds, between the old era of capricious sky gods and the dawning age of mathematical cosmos. Even now, when we know precisely how orbital mechanics create eclipses, there's a thrill in standing beneath the moon's shadow, feeling the same primal awe that stilled those ancient armies. Knowledge doesn't diminish wonder, it deepens it. Yet if Thales used the eclipse to champion reason, another cosmic gift would soon be claimed by faith. Just decades later, a meteorite would crash near Pessinus in Phrygia, not as a portent but as a sacred centerpiece. The locals didn't see a hunk of space rock, they saw the physical embodiment of Cybele, the mother goddess. Where science saw chance, devotion saw destiny, and in that collision of perspectives, a temple would rise, one built not around superstition or skepticism, but around the raw, magnetic power of the heavens themselves. In the bustling port city of Ephesus, where traders hawked silk and spices beneath towering marble columns, pilgrims flocked to a shrine unlike any other, not to admire gold or ivory, but to kneel before a dark, pitted stone. This was the fallen image of Artemis, a sacred object the Ephesians believed had tumbled from the heavens themselves. Ancient texts describe it as neither carved nor cast, but sent down by Zeus, its rough surface bearing the scars of a fiery descent. To modern eyes, the description is unmistakable. This was likely a meteorite, a celestial wanderer that became the beating heart of one of antiquity's most vibrant cults. Artemis of Ephesus wasn't just a local deity, her fame stretched across continents, drawing worshippers from as far as Britain and India. The temple housing her meteorite became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, not for its architecture alone, but for the power radiating from that unassuming stone. Pilgrims left offerings of jewelry and amulets, convinced the rock carried divine energy. The irony is delicious. While Greek philosophers like Anaxagoras theorized about stones from the sun, Ephesus had already enshrined one as a goddess. Science and faith, it seems, have always orbited the same cosmic truths. This reverence for sky-born stones wasn't unique to Ephesus. In Rome, the Magna Mater's cult revered a meteorite shipped from Phrygia, while Islam's black stone in the Kaaba echoed the same tradition. The pattern reveals a universal human instinct. When the cosmos literally hands us a piece of itself, we don't just study it, we sanctify it. Meteorites became the ultimate liminal objects, straddling the boundary between earthly and divine. Their arrival wasn't random, it was delivery, a celestial UPS drop-off from the gods. What made the Ephesus meteorite especially potent was its timing. The city thrived as a cultural crossroads, where Babylonian star lore met Greek rationalism and Anatolian earth cults. The meteorite became a Rosetta Stone of belief, its meaning shifting with each pilgrim's gaze. To a Greek sailor, it might represent Artemis's protection during storms. To a Persian trader, the fiery anger of Anahita. The stone didn't just bridge heaven and earth, it connected cultures through shared awe. Yet if meteorites anchored faith to physical objects, another cosmic event would soon dissolve all boundaries between matter and spirit. In 1572, a new star blazed in Cassiopeia, a light so paradoxical, it would birth the quest to turn lead into gold. As Tycho Brahe trained his quadrant on this impossible beacon, he wasn't just witnessing a nova, he was staring into the crucible of alchemy itself. On a crisp November evening in 1572, a Danish nobleman named Tycho Brahe stepped into his garden and saw the impossible, a star brighter than Venus burning where no star belonged. The constellation Cassiopeia, that celestial W etched into the heavens, now cradled an intruder in its curve, to a world steeped in Aristotle's teachings that the heavens beyond the moon were perfect and unchanging. This blazing newcomer wasn't just a discovery. It was heresy written in stardust, yet Tycho's meticulous measurements would do more than shatter ancient cosmology. They'd ignite a parallel revolution, one where the quest to understand the stars became tangled with the dream of turning lead into gold. Alchemists across Europe seized on Tycho's nova as proof of their deepest belief that the universe was alive with transformative potential. If stars could burst from nothingness, why couldn't base metals ascend to celestial purity? The nova's sudden brilliance mirrored their own aspirations, the leap from dull matter to radiant perfection. In Prague, Emperor Rudolf II's court alchemists pored over Tycho's data, convinced the star's light held secrets to the philosopher's stone. The timing was prophetic. Just as Tycho proved the heavens were mutable, alchemical texts like the Rosarium Philosophorum began circulating widely, their allegories of death and rebirth echoing the nova's life cycle. A celestial event had become a spiritual mirror, reflecting humanity's age-old longing to transcend its limits. What makes this intersection of astronomy and alchemy so poignant is its irony. Tycho himself dismissed alchemy as folly, yet his work inadvertently fueled its golden age. By proving the cosmos was dynamic, he gave alchemists a cosmic mandate. If stars could transmute hydrogen into heavier elements, why couldn't human hands coax lead into gold? The nova's lingering glow, visible for 18 months, became a beacon for this new paradigm. Even the star's eventual fading held meaning. Alchemical manuscripts depicted the peacock's tail stage of the great work, a fleeting burst of color before achieving the pure white of enlightenment. Yet while Tycho's nova blazed in Europe's collective imagination, another stellar explosion went strangely unnoticed. In 1181, a supernova flared in Cassiopeia's neighbor, Cepheus, just as bright, just as earth-shattering. Chinese and Japanese astronomers recorded it meticulously, yet Europe's chronicles remained silent. Was it clouded skies, or were medieval minds too preoccupied with earthly crusades to note the heavens' upheaval? The contrast is striking. One supernova reshapes science and spirituality, another vanishes from history like a dream upon waking. The cosmos doesn't discriminate in its fireworks, but humanity, it seems, only sees what it's prepared to witness. The remnants of that forgotten supernova, now known as 3C58, still spin silently in modern radio telescopes. Its pulsar beats like a ghostly metronome, a reminder that not all cosmic dramas find their audience. While Tycho's nova birthed revolutions, this one became a whisper lost to time until science, centuries later, gave it voice. The sky speaks ceaselessly. But its stories only live when someone thinks to listen. And sometimes the most profound messages come not from the explosions we notice, but from the light we've learned to ignore. In the quiet spaces between stars, another phenomenon flickers. One ancient culture saw not as emptiness, but as a bridge between worlds. The zodiacal light, that ethereal glow rising from the horizon before dawn, wasn't just atmospheric scattering to the Polynesians or the Norse. It was a pathway for gods and ancestors, proof that even the faintest cosmic light could guide humanity's boldest journeys. In the spring of 1006, a light erupted in the southern sky so intense it rivaled the moon, casting shadows at midnight. Chinese and Arab astronomers documented it in awe. The supernova, now known as SN 1006, was the brightest stellar explosion in recorded history, visible for over 2 years. Yet despite its brilliance, its cultural footprint is eerily faint. No epic poems describe its glow, no temples align with its position, no myths recount its meaning. This absence isn't just curious, it's a masterclass in how geography dictates which cosmic events become legend and which fade into obscurity. The supernova's location holds the key. Nestled in the constellation Lupus, deep in the southern celestial hemisphere, it remained invisible to most Eurasian civilizations where myth-making flourished. While Cairo's scholars and Kaifeng's astronomers logged its brilliance, their records treated it as a celestial anomaly rather than a divine omen. Contrast this with the 1054 Crab Nebula supernova, which blazed directly over the Silk Road trade routes, inspiring myths from Japan to the American Southwest. The difference: accessibility. A cosmic event's impact depends not just on its brightness, but on who stands beneath it, yet the silence isn't total. Fragments of lore hint at distant cultures who might have witnessed SN 1006. Aboriginal Australian oral traditions speak of a great fire in the sky around this era, while Polynesian navigators may have used its light as a wayfinding beacon. These scattered threads suggest the supernova did ignite stories, just not ones preserved in stone or parchment. The real tragedy isn't that the event went unnoticed, but that the cultures who revered it left fewer written records. When empires document the heavens, they decide which celestial dramas enter history and which vanish like smoke. What makes this omission so revealing is how it inverts our assumptions. We imagine ancient peoples universally awed by the night sky, yet SN 1006 proves even the cosmos' grandest spectacles need witnesses with the means to immortalize them. The supernova's legacy isn't in the myths it spawned, but in the silence it exposes the countless celestial wonders lost because they blazed over oceans or deserts rather than palaces and temples. But if one supernova's light failed to catch mythmakers' eyes, another cosmic visitor would soon blaze too brightly to ignore. In 44 BCE, a comet's fiery streak wouldn't just inspire stories, it would crown a god, as Julius Caesar's soul ascended to the heavens in a spectacle engineered by ambition and celestial timing. The sky's next act wouldn't be overlooked by history, it would rewrite it. The year 837 marked a celestial encounter so close it sent shockwaves through an empire. Halley's Comet, usually a distant wanderer, streaked past Earth at a mere 5 million kilometers closer than any recorded approach before or since. To Emperor Louis the Pious, ruler of the Carolingian Empire, this wasn't just an astronomical event, it was a divine rebuke. Chronicles from his court describe the comet as a sword hanging over the kingdom, its tail stretching across the sky like an accusing finger. Panic gripped the royal household. Louis ordered 3 days of fasting and prayer across his realm, commissioning special liturgies to ward off the perceived judgment. Monks scribbled frantic marginalia in illuminated manuscripts, depicting the comet as a fiery dragon, a symbol of chaos invading God's orderly cosmos. What's revealing isn't just Louis's reaction, but how it mirrored responses across the globe. In China, Tang Dynasty astronomers logged the same comet as a broom star sweeping away misfortune, while Abbasid scholars in Baghdad interpreted its path as a celestial battle between cosmic forces. This universality speaks to something deeper than superstition. Comets violate the heavens' expected order. Their sudden appearances, unpredictable trajectories, and ghostly tales defy the rhythmic predictability of planets and stars. To ancient minds, this wasn't physics, it was the universe breaking its own rules. The 837 flyby's legacy lingers in an unexpected place: art. The Stuttgart Psalter, created shortly after the event, includes one of the earliest European depictions of Halley's Comet, not as a scientific curiosity, but as a flaming chariot bearing divine messengers. This artistic choice captures the paradox of medieval cosmology, fear and awe intertwined. Even as Louis's astronomers recorded the comet's position with surprising accuracy, their interpretations remained steeped in eschatology. The heavens weren't just observed, they were decoded as a celestial morality play. Yet if comets symbolized divine displeasure, another cosmic phenomenon would soon represent harmony itself. In 1351, a supernova flared in the constellation Taurus so brilliantly it rivaled Jupiter. But unlike Halley's ominous visit, this stellar explosion would inspire not terror, but music, becoming the unlikely muse for compositions that sought to mirror the harmony of the spheres. As the nova's light painted medieval skies, musicians from Constantinople to Cologne began experimenting with radical new scales, attempting to translate celestial radiance into sound. The result, a revolution in polyphony that would lay the groundwork for Renaissance music. Where comets brought discord, this dying star sang, and its melody still echoes in our chords today. Johannes Kepler stood beneath the autumn sky of 1604, his eyes fixed on a light that shouldn't exist, a star blazing in Ophiuchus with the brilliance of Jupiter, where no star had been before. While most saw a celestial anomaly, Kepler heard something else entirely: music. The supernova's appearance, perfectly timed with a rare conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars in Sagittarius, wasn't just a cosmic coincidence to him. It was a chord struck by the universe itself, a harmonic convergence revealing the hidden symphony of the spheres. This wasn't mere poetic whimsy. Kepler's obsession with celestial harmony ran bone deep. Years earlier, he'd painstakingly mapped the orbital ratios of planets, convinced their movements created an inaudible celestial choir. The distances between worlds, he argued, corresponded to musical intervals, Mars and Jupiter humming a dissonant minor seventh, while Earth and Venus resonated in perfect fifths. The 1604 supernova became his crescendo, its explosive birth amid the planetary alignment proving the cosmos didn't just move, it sang. His treatise, Harmonices Mundi, didn't just predict elliptical orbits, it wove astronomy and music into a grand unified theory, where mathematics and melody were two faces of the same divine order. What's astonishing isn't just Kepler's vision, but how it mirrors ancient instincts. Pythagoras had heard music in the stars millennia earlier, and Hindu Vedic texts described the universe's vibration as Om. Yet Kepler's genius lay in his rigor. He didn't just dream of cosmic harmonies, he calculated them, translating orbital velocities into sheet music. Modern science might dismiss his literal music of the spheres, but his underlying insight endures. The universe operates by elegant, rhythmic laws. When astronomers today detect pulsars beating like cosmic metronomes or gravitational waves rippling spacetime's fabric, they're hearing echoes of Kepler's symphony. The supernova's glow faded within months, but its cultural resonance amplified. Composers like Paul Hindemith would later set Kepler's planetary harmonies to actual music, while the Romantic poets spun his ideas into verses about starry choirs. Even Carl Sagan's Cosmos paid homage, framing Kepler's quest as the moment science and art held hands under the same sky. That's the true legacy of 1604, not just a dying star's flash, but the proof that wonder and calculation aren't opposites. They're twin lenses for glimpsing the universe's deepest truths. Yet if Kepler's supernova revealed celestial music, another cosmic event would soon expose the universe's silent mechanics. On May 29, 1919, a total eclipse would bend starlight around the sun, turning the sky itself into a laboratory and proving Einstein's relativity not with equations but with shadow and flame. The age of myth was ending. The age of measurement had begun. On May 29, 1919, the moon's shadow raced across the Atlantic, swallowing the sun over a remote island off West Africa. But this wasn't just another eclipse, it was humanity's first real test of whether the universe played by Einstein's rules. As astronomers trained their telescopes on the darkened sky, they weren't just measuring starlight, they were peering into the very fabric of reality itself. The stars near the sun's edge didn't just twinkle, they shifted, their positions warped by the sun's gravity bending space like a trampoline. When the numbers crunched, Newton's clockwork cosmos gave way to Einstein's curved spacetime, proving that even light couldn't escape the drama of gravity. What's remarkable isn't just the science, it's the symbolism. For millennia, eclipses had been divine punctuation marks, celestial interruptions that kings and priests interpreted as supernatural verdicts. Now that same shadow became a laboratory, revealing universal laws rather than arbitrary omens. The shift was seismic. Where Babylonians saw omens in eclipses, Einstein saw equations. Arthur Eddington, the astronomer who led the expedition, captured the moment perfectly. Stars don't just guide ships, they chart the shape of the universe. His photographs didn't just confirm relativity, they redefined humanity's relationship with the cosmos, turning ancient fears into mathematical certainties. Yet the 1919 eclipse carries an ironic twist. While Einstein's triumph marked the triumph of reason, the public's reaction echoed ancestral awe. Newspapers hailed him as a modern Copernicus, his name suddenly mythic. Crowds who couldn't pass E=mc² still sensed something revolutionary, that the universe was stranger than any legend. In that sense, nothing had changed. Celestial events still captivated humanity, only now the stories wore lab coats instead of animal skins. The eclipse didn't just bend light, it bent history, proving that whether we approach the cosmos with rituals or radiometers, its power to astonish remains unchanged. But if Einstein's eclipse closed one chapter, our final cosmic event opens another, one still writing itself across the sky. In 2022, the James Webb Space Telescope unveiled its first images, revealing galaxies older than Earth itself. These swirling masses of starlight aren't just scientific data, they're the birthplace of tomorrow's myths. Already, their ethereal beauty sparks comparisons to divine tapestries or cosmic mandalas. The cycle continues. We decode the universe with equations, only to recast its wonders as new legends. From Babylon's omen tablets to Webb's infrared lenses, the stars never stop whispering. We just keep finding new languages to listen. In October 2017, astronomers at the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii spotted something unprecedented, a strange, elongated object hurtling through our solar system at blistering speeds. Named Oumuamua, Hawaiian for scout or messenger, this interstellar visitor wasn't just the first of its kind, it was a cosmic riddle wrapped in enigma. Its peculiar shape, rapid acceleration, and unusual trajectory defied easy explanation. Within weeks, what began as a scientific curiosity erupted into a cultural phenomenon, sparking theories that ranged from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some scientists, including Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, posited that Oumuamua's behavior might suggest an artificial origin, perhaps a solar sail or debris from an alien civilization. The idea wasn't just science fiction, It was a testament to how quickly the unknown transforms into myth, even in our age of advanced technology. What made Oumuamua so ripe for myth-making wasn't just its mystery, but its timing. Arriving in an era of renewed fascination with extraterrestrial life, from government disclosures about UFOs to the explosive popularity of sci-fi like Arrival, the interstellar object became a blank canvas for humanity's oldest questions. Ancient cultures saw comets as divine messengers. Modern audiences wondered if Oumuamua was a probe or a derelict spaceship. The parallels were uncanny. Just as medieval scholars interpreted supernova as heavenly omens, 21st century internet forums dissected pixelated telescope images, searching for clues of alien engineering. The line between scientific hypothesis and collective storytelling blurred almost instantly. Yet the real revelation wasn't whether Oumuamua was alien technology. Most astronomers agree it was likely a fragment of a distant Pluto-like world, but how its story unfolded. Media headlines leaned into sensationalism, while podcasts and documentaries amplified the extraterrestrial narrative. The public's imagination outpaced the data, proving that even in an age of quantum physics and space telescopes, our brains still default to myth when faced with the unexplainable. Oumuamua became a Rorschach test. Skeptics saw an oddly shaped rock. Believers saw a calling card from the stars. This instinct to mythologize isn't new. The same cognitive wiring that made Polynesians see a navigational guardian in a supernova's glow now leads us to ponder alien civilizations when a space rock behaves oddly. The difference lies in our tools. Where ancestors relied on oral traditions, we have peer-reviewed papers and viral tweets, but the underlying urge remains unchanged. When the universe winks at us, we can't help but wink back with stories. Oumuamua's legacy isn't in its composition, but in the conversation it ignited. It reminded us that curiosity and wonder aren't relics of the past, they are the engines of discovery. Whether as a natural oddity or a spark for modern myth, this interstellar wanderer proved one thing: the night sky will always be humanity's greatest storyteller, and we're still eager to listen. From dragon comets to vampire stars, humanity's greatest myths have always been written in starlight. What our ancestors saw as celestial battles or divine omens, we now understand as supernova, eclipses, and cosmic collisions, yet the magic hasn't faded. If anything, knowing the science behind these phenomena makes them more wondrous. Imagine standing on a Bronze Age hillside as a supernova erupts overhead, painting the night in impossible daylight. You wouldn't need astronomy textbooks to feel the universe speaking directly to you. That primal connection still thrums in our DNA today, every time we crane our necks to watch a meteor shower or gasp as the moon swallows the sun. The real revelation isn't just that ancient myths have cosmic roots, it's that this storytelling continues. When SpaceX's Starlink satellites first streaked across the sky, some mistook them for UFOs, spinning fresh tales of alien fleets. The eerie green glow of a recent aurora over London sparked social media whispers of portals opening. Even our cutting-edge telescopes feed modern legends. James Webb's cosmic cliffs images look less like nebula data and more like the gates of Valhalla rendered in infrared. The language has changed, but the instinct remains. When faced with the unknown, we still reach for myth. What does this tell us? That science and storytelling aren't rivals, they're dance partners. Astronomy explains the mechanics of a comet's tail, but it's mythology that makes Halley's 1066 appearance feel like a stitch in time, connecting Bayeux tapestry warriors to Mark Twain's birth and death under the same celestial visitor. Data tells us Betelgeuse's dimming was dust clouds. Folklore lets us imagine it as a cosmic vampire catching its breath. Both perspectives hold truth. So tonight, when you step outside and gaze upward, try seeing the sky as our ancestors did, not just as a void dotted with stars, but as the world's oldest storybook. Every flicker, every streak, every unusual glow is a paragraph in an epic still being written. With new discoveries, rogue planets, fast radio bursts, dark matter's invisible web, we're adding fresh chapters to this grand narrative. The universe hasn't stopped talking. We've just learned to listen in different ways, and who knows, the next great myth might be hiding in tomorrow's astronomical bulletin, waiting for someone to look up and wonder. Did any of these cosmic connections between the stars and our stories leave you starstruck? From dragon comets to vampire stars, we've traced how humanity's oldest tales were written in celestial fire, but this is just the beginning. The night sky still holds countless secrets waiting to be uncovered, and that's where you come in. Drop your wildest theories or favorite myths in the comments below. Was it the supernova that birthed heroes, or the eclipse that toppled kings that fascinated you most? Don't just lurk in the cosmic shadows, join the conversation. If you're hungry for more deep dives into the universe's hidden narratives, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every click sends a signal flare into the algorithm, telling it you want more mysteries decoded, more legends unraveled. And if you really want to stay in the loop, tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop a new video exploring everything from rogue planets to the real science behind ancient star maps. Consider it your personal cosmic early warning system. As you head back out into the world, remember to look up occasionally. Whether you're spotting satellites at dusk or catching a meteor shower, the sky is still telling stories. You just have to know how to listen. Until next time, keep wondering, keep questioning, and may your nights be as full of awe as those first stargazers who turned supernova into sagas. The universe isn't done surprising us yet.